Welcome to the Building Doors Podcast, where we're not just pushing for opportunities for women's voices to be heard, we're creating them. I'm Christy Harst, voiceover actor and creator of the Building Doors campaign. Join us as we amplify voices, break barriers, and build doors together.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bobbi Maxwell, and I'm a door builder in the Building Doors campaign, and I thank you for joining me on the podcast today. About myself, I've been in the voiceover industry since 2016 full-time, but I've had a hand on a microphone and talking into it for a lot longer than that. If I look back on my entire career, my entire life story, there are two things that I think that I have taken to heart. If I want to achieve my dreams, if I want to stand out from the crowd, I have to be true to myself. And I have to make some sort of wave so that I can be noticed. So I do have to kind of stand out and do something different and do something unique. And that is especially true in voiceover, which we'll talk about later. But the way I got into this whole talking into a microphone thing, well, I was born in a family of 9 children. I was the 5th girl, and so my parents were probably going, another girl, really? Especially my dad. And, just kind of blended in. It's not like they were waiting on that boy. I know they were waiting on that boy. But then being one of 9 kids, where I was right in the middle child, I knew that I would have to do something to get attention. And I did it. I wasn't a bad child, but I just did things that, little skits or being kind of funny or whatever that I might capture attention. And once again, it will all add up in my later years when I would get into voiceover. I remember that with 9 children and 2 parents, it was a very, very busy household. And, there were only so many bathrooms. And bathroom time was, you got in there and you held on to it. You just didn't get in and get out. So I remember being in the bathroom, and I would go into the little cabinets where my mom would store the bathroom stuff, and I'd pick up a bottle of, shampoo or soap or whatever, and I would start reading it like an announcer. And I don't know where this came from. I guess, I watched a lot of TV. All of us kids did. So maybe I somehow was taking those commercials and just kind of going, this must be what they do. And yeah, I would be in there for, an hour, and I would be doing some kind of announcer thing. Or we had a 4-poster bed. I shared a bedroom with 2 of my sisters. And you had the knobs that go at the top of the posters, and I would act like that was a microphone, sometimes singing, not a great singer, by the way, but sometimes acting like I was an MC or a host or something. And it's just so funny to look back on it to see how this all came to be, but it was part of where I would eventually turn out and where I am now. And I had mentioned that, you have to stand out from the crowd. That went right into school, too. It's like, a girl, I was into sports, so I had to kind of stand out to be a good athlete. I was smart, but I wasn't like the smartest kid. I was definitely not like the valedictorian or anything. So, you just have to prove yourself that you're worthy and, you're worth taking a look at. And I would do that. I asked to do the morning announcements at school in high school, and I did that. And then when I became of age to work, I started working at a store. It was called Quality Farm and Fleet, and I think now it's Tractor Supply. And I not only was, a cashier, I would do the overhead announcements. And I loved that part of it. I thought that was really cool. Or I would page somebody, or I would say sales over the intercom. And I just thought it was really cool. Then I found out that in my junior and senior year of high school, I was able to take a radio broadcasting course. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. This would be an easy A. One of my friends were doing, calculus and whatever else, being in a play or something, being in the drama club. I was doing radio, and I absolutely loved it. I was the first female on the high school radio station. Once again, standing out and just thought I could do this for the rest of my life. I don't need to go to college. But, my parents said, well, you should try to go to college. So I went to a branch of Miami University of Ohio. The branch had a carrier current station, and I took that course, and I was able to be on the air there and loved it. And then I started applying at some Cincinnati radio stations where I grew up. I didn't have any experience. I didn't have anything on the resume for radio. So I was getting turned down and had met some friends who were visiting the Cincinnati area, and they lived in Las Vegas. And they came in like every summer, and they said, you should come out to Vegas and try to get a job in radio. And I was like, okay. So I had graduated from high school by then, and my parents were like, you're going where at 18 years old? Oh, you're going to Vegas? Seriously? You're leaving your huge family here to go on your own to Las Vegas? I remember them standing in the driveway just going like, she'll be back. She'll be back. And that lit a fire under me. I said, I have to do it now. I have to prove myself. Once again, stand out. So I went to Las Vegas. I worked at a couple of radio stations there. Again, loved the business. And then I wanted to come home to Ohio. It had been a couple of years. And so I came back and started working in radio in Cincinnati, different stations, different formats. I worked morning show, I worked the afternoon drive show, overnights when I first started. So I just kind of did a little bit of everything. But while I was doing that through all these radio stations, as the production department would need me, I would voice commercials. And I thought that was so fun because you really got to not only do the announcing thing, but you got to act a lot in those commercials. And I started really enjoying that more than being on the air. Around this time, the company I worked for around 2015, 2016 started downsizing. They bought another company, so they fired a lot of people, and then they gave those of us who stayed their jobs. So it's like some of us were doing 3 and 4 persons jobs. And I was like, this is just not fun anymore. I'm not enjoying it. I'm working so much, but I'm not getting anything out of it. And I remember that I loved doing the production part of it. I loved doing the characters. I loved doing the announcer roles. So in 2016, I said, I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to take a leap of faith and do voiceover full time. And, my salary dropped a little bit that first year, but I was shocked at how well things went. The early success for me in voiceover was pretty much the same things I was doing for the radio stations. I was doing the mom roles, some announcer roles, a lot of car ads, retail. Retail was just big. And so I wasn't surprised, but I thought that must be what I'm supposed to be doing, that I was the most comfortable at. And it just, every year after that, it just got better and better. And I started, breaking into other genres. I started doing some animation. I did like a handful, 6 animated films. I did telephony. I started doing more corporate narration, but still relying on the commercial end of it. So it just it was like a natural progression for me. But I started seeing then that once, just like being younger, while I was being true to myself and my personality and my character, I had to stand out from the crowd in order to book those jobs. So it's always been there. To achieve my dreams, I have to do those 2 things, and I've managed to do that. It gets tougher the older that I get, and I'm probably one of the more mature women here in the Building Doors campaign, but I'm cool with that because I've learned so much, and I know there are still roles for me, so that's why I stay doing it. Some of the characteristics that would describe me: trusting, believability, I keep it real, friendly, caring, fun, a lot like I was as a jock on the air, seriously. So I am being true to myself. Those are the good qualities about me that I can bring out to people. I just remember listeners saying, I love listening to you because I feel like you're a best friend, that I'm there every day for them, and they felt comfortable with me. And that's what I like to pass on into my voiceover career. And those are the roles that I audition for the most. as voice actors, we've all had our dream projects, and I just wanted to be the voice of a retail store or chain or whatever. And I wanted it to be national because I did the local or regional stuff, but I wanted a national chain. Now, I wanted to go for Kroger, and that is still my number one most desirable client to get. Haven't reached it. I did some corporate narration stuff for them, but I've never been their spokesperson as far as radio and TV and digital ads. But I'm not giving up. But I did get a retail client. It was Overstock.com, and it was national, great rates. Once again, my personality. They wanted friendly, upbeat, energetic, and that was easy for me. And I stayed as their spokesperson for 4 years. It was exactly what I wanted. So then I would move on to the next one, and I'm still going for that Kroger client. But it's usually retail that I have the most success in. If there were a surprising fact about myself and voiceover that I would throw at you and you'd go, really? It would be that I'm actually a better listener than I am a talker or a communicator. I can't tell you how. I must have just been chosen. I'd say 85% of my closest friends are the talkers in the relationship. And I listen, and I am a good listener. My husband, he's a talker. It's just, I'm usually the one that's just kind of sitting back or trying to get something in a conversation, but I'm okay with it. If there was one thing that if I were to look back thinking if I had done differently, I don't think I would have ever not wanted to do voiceover and radio, but if I had to choose, it would have been to do some kind of psychological work or a therapist, because I listen. And that has actually helped me in voiceover, because I hear it from directors all the time that, wow, you take direction really well, or, you picked up on that really fast, or you got exactly what we were going for, because I am a good listener and I analyze things quickly. And then comes the voice and the personality. But yeah, so that'd be kind of surprising. People, what? You've been working in front of a microphone and you're a better listener than you are a talker. Yeah. But that's where I am, and that's where I continue to be. And like I said, I'm maturing in this industry, but I'm still finding roles that I'm being hired for, different roles, as I do get a little bit deeper voice or get more wisdom in my life to take on different roles. So I'm going to do it as long as I can, or they'll have me. Thanks for checking out my Building Doors podcast episode, and definitely for your support of the campaign. Christy has done a wonderful job with this, and we'll take the support in any way we can. If you'd like to work together with me, you can email me at Bobbi, with an I, at BobbiMaxwell.com. That's Bobbi, with an I, at BobbiMaxwell.com. And of course, my website is Bobbi, with an I, Maxwell.com. Thank you again for taking an interest in Building Doors. Please check out all the other wonderful ladies and their podcasts. We're all unique and each have something different to offer, and we're all just trying to stand out in the crowd. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Building Doors podcast. Want to hear more? Check out all our episodes at buildingdoorsvo.com/podcast and follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Building Doors VO. We'd love to hear from you, so call us on our 24/7 hotline at 216-307-1917 and leave us a voicemail with your thoughts. Do you want to support the podcast? Well, we love coffee. Buy us a cup through the link in the description or at buildingdoorsvo.com. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep speaking up, and let's keep building doors together.